Now, the Reserve Bank has blindsided many economists and homeowners by deciding to keep interest rates on hold at 3.85% instead of delivering a cut. The RBA board was split 6-3 when making the call, with Governor Michelle Bullock attributing it to uncertainty in the world economy, adding that we don't want to end up having to fight inflation again. For their take, let's bring in Housing Minister Clare and National Senate Leader Bridget McKenzie. Good morning. Clare, let's get your reaction to the RBA decision.
Nat, millions of Australians were hoping for a rate cut yesterday, and as you say, that is very much what all of the experts were predicting, but the RBA has chosen to keep rates on hold. What the RBA told us yesterday is that this is about pace, not direction. The RBA has already cut interest rates twice this year, and they're kind of indicating that they want to keep moving on that, but they're being very cautious. For the government, it really comes back to the fact that our number one priority for Australians is helping households manage the cost of living. We had the 1st of July hit last week when a whole bunch of new supports and payments switched over, increase to childcare benefit, the energy bill supplement flowing to households, pretty significant wage increases for minimum wage earners and people right across the economy. And it just shows, we're over the worst of the cost of living issues facing the country, but we've still got a long way to go, and the government is firmly focused on that task.
As Housing Minister, though, are you frustrated?
Oh, look, Nat, I want my community and people around the country not to be struggling in the way that they are. So, of course, I was hoping for an interest rate decrease from the Reserve Bank, but we are very respectful of the independence of this institution. There's a good reason that we don't put politicians in charge of setting interest rates. We respect what they've done. The government's role here is to assist the nation in bringing down inflation, and we've done a really good job of that across the country, and making sure that we are doing absolutely everything within our power to give households that flexibility and buffer that they need to help manage the situation.
Although Australian government spending is basically propping up the economy, not private sector spending, so that is an issue that a lot of people are talking about. Bridget, Shadow Treasurer Ted O'Brien, very quick to blame the government. What would you guys have done better?
Well, Nat, hundreds of thousands of viewers today are waking up disappointed, wanting relief from mortgage. The reality is, across the globe, we've seen places like Europe, New Zealand, Canada have been seeing multiple rate reductions over the last 8 months. And as the OECD has said, we've seen the greatest drop in living standards in that time. And that's a result, as you've said yourself, of government, state and federal spending, and the private sector being squashed as a result. So we need to get productivity going, private sector thriving, rather than what we're seeing under the Labor Party at the moment. So when we can get the economy going like that, I believe the RBA will have more confidence to give us the rate relief we need.
Bridget, the RBA governor did say that uncertainty in the world economy is a major factor here. So that doesn't mean it's our fault or the government's fault. That's what IMF, Trump could do.
The IMF and the OECD have said that our state and federal government balance sheets and their inability to retain spending and get spending under control is a factor in the high inflationary environment we've been subjected to. But you're right, Nat. There is global uncertainty with the relationship with China, with what's happening in the Middle East, and indeed the tariff situation in the US.
OK, let's go to nuts and bolts and how people spend their money. A political party in New Zealand has introduced a bill to protect cash, banning retailers from refusing it for purchases under $500. The New Zealand First Party says such a law would also prevent businesses from charging a fee, premium or higher price when using cash. Clare, should Australia consider the same proposal here?
Well, Nat, that's something that the government is actually looking at the moment. So the Treasurer has already announced that we're going to mandate that businesses across the country for essential goods and services do need to continue to accept cash. Now, I don't use cash. I don't think I've taken money out of a bank for a number of years. It's not my way. But the government absolutely recognises that for lots of Australians, this is incredibly important to them. We see it a lot in communities like the ones that Bridget represents in rural Australia. We see a lot of elderly people people who really, for them, cash is their mainstay. So it is really important that we operate in an economy where people have choices. So we're looking at the exact implementation of this at the moment. But yeah, we think cash is actually still really important.
Yeah, it is for 16% of Australians. That's about the number of Australians who use cash. So Bridget, should the government require retailers to accept cash for small purchases?
Well, I think if you've got cash in your wallet or your purse and you're walking into an Australian business and it's still legal tender the last time I looked, you should be able to use it. There's nothing more frustrating in Parliament House when I've got $5 and no phone on me to get my coffee using cash and I'm refused. It's incredible.
Gee, Brit. And don't you get big discounts from at that cafe
don't
there?
Believe everything.
Don't you get cheap wine and cheap food there? I've heard it's a very cheap place to eat.
That's TikTok going crazy. But when in natural disasters, when FPOS goes down, for those who don't want to pay excessive bank charges, which Australian banks are notorious for, using cash is a way to be able to get through those both, individual emergency circumstances, but also choice. And so I absolutely believe we need to keep cash, not just for emergency purchases, Claire, but as legal tender going forward.
Interesting, the government is working on that. We will check back with you. Claire, thank you very much for joining us, and to Bridget.